What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name's Kyle. Tonight, it's July 31st. It's the end of July. We're going to be continuing my 32-team projection series here. We're going to be wrapping up the AFC West. We're finishing with the Los Angeles Chargers. If you guys haven't checked out any of my other work on this series, I'll probably post it in the comments below. But I do about 15 to 20 minutes for each team, tell you what they did in 2023, talk about quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, tight ends, and then we put a bow on it at the end to do a little final review. So we're going to hop into a screen share here, and we're going to open up my projections. If you guys are new to the Fantasy Fellowship, definitely subscribe, like the video. It helps us grow. And then I highly recommend checking out the fantasyfellowship.com. I got a lot of good things cooking on here. This is, we have a members content. You guys can go check it out. It's only $10 a month. I highly recommend getting it for the month of August. That's where you're going to get the most value. I got tons of articles, rankings, projections, and more. Everything on here, cheat sheets, everything you need, data studies. I have a really fun article that I'm working on right now that I'm hoping to have up by the end of the week. It's like a draft guide kind of article. Lots of stuff to look for there. But let's get into the Los Angeles Chargers. We're going to start with the 2023, and we basically saw the death of the Brandon Staley Chargers in 2023. They tried Kellen Moore at offensive coordinator. Everybody was excited. And then just injuries, it fell apart. You lose Mike Williams early in the season. You get Austin Eckler with an injury. You have Keenan Allen missing games. And then Justin Herbert, just working with not a lot. And it was a frustrating year as a Charger fan. That defense was terrible. There's a lot of things working against them. If we look at last year's numbers, they threw the ball a ton, 632 passing attempts. It was actually down from their 711 back in 2022. But 4,300 passing yards, 6.82 yards per attempt, 24 passing touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Like those numbers are fine. I like the touchdown interception ratio. But this team could not run the ball last year. 431 attempts, about 1,600 yards, 3.81 yards per carry, 11 touchdowns. That's the fewest in the Justin Herbert era. Also the fewest passing yards in the Justin Herbert era. He only missed, a little bit last year. The last 5-6 games maybe? I actually probably double check that. We saw a lot of Easton Stick. So a lot of nothing from 2023. I think it's hard to learn from the Chargers in 23. 5-12 last year. They only ran 1,063 plays, under 6,000 yards for the first time since I chart back all the way to 2017, and it's easily a year to forget. And what sucks for me is about 2 years ago, I adopted the Chargers as my AFC team of choice. That I'm going to root for them. I got me a Justin Herbert jersey. I got a hat. I think I got a Chargers shirt somewhere. And I was like, I'm just going to root for the Chargers. I like Justin Herbert. I want to root for this team. And now we're looking at a full-on, maybe not a rebuild, but more of a retool. That's kind of what we're working on here. You're upgrading quarterback to Jim Harbaugh, who had a lot of consistency and stability through Michigan and back to San Francisco. You're bringing in Greg Roman, who's quarterbacked or offensive coordinator in some good teams back in Baltimore. He's got a long history of being a really good offensive coordinator. So I'm excited projecting the 2024. I think for 2023, though, we can't really take anything out of Justin Herbert. We know he's still a good quarterback. And what I was happy to see is, he was running again. He was getting, carries and touchdowns. The year before where he got injured, he was not running. He couldn't run. But he's usually good for a few touchdowns per game or per season, and ended up running for 228 yards in about, 2/3 of a season, which is pretty solid. Could have been, 400 yards and a few rushing touchdowns. Obviously, Austin Eckler's gone this year. Joshua Kelly. Where did Josh Kelly resign? I don't even know if he's in the league. Is Josh Kelly on a team? Where is Joshua Kelly? He's a free agent. Unreal. So the Chargers lose their top 2 running backs this year. They're going in with a group of guys that we'll talk about later in the show. But Eckler, high ankle sprain. Josh Kelly was fine as a replacement level guy, but nobody could catch the ball as good as Eckler did, and that was a huge part of the game that was missing for this team. Keenan Allen continued to be a boss, though. I think that's one thing that I learned is no matter what the issue is, how old he gets, Keenan Allen's still really good. I actually thought Josh Palmer looked pretty good as a number 2, number 3 receiver for this offense, and I think we're expecting big things out of him this year. Quentin Johnston, if you guys go on Twitter X and just type in Quentin Johnston's name, you're going to see basically just a laughing clown stock kind of vibe there, because he wasn't good. He was terrible last year. It was one of the worst rookie seasons you could ask for a first round rookie receiver. He had opportunities with Mike Williams missing. He just couldn't step up. So we'll talk about him. Mike Williams got hurt, Alex Erickson, Jalen Guyton, Darius Davis. Just they tried a bunch of things at receiver. And then the tight end room is getting flipped over this year. They tried Gerald Everett for a couple seasons. It worked fine, but nothing really for fantasy. It was just a big nothing out of the Chargers. But we spent 5 minutes talking about a bunch of nothing. Let's go into 2024. And I'm actually cautiously optimistic about the Chargers. Not for fantasy per se, but just for real life. You're bringing in Jim Harbaugh. You're bringing in Greg Roman. Some like well-known cornerstone pieces there at the main offensive and head coach spots. And I think we're going to see this team gain a lot of efficiencies this year. They're not going to run a lot of plays. They're going to run the hell out of the ball this year and not pass as much as they've been known to with the Justin Herbert era. But you're looking for that San Francisco style offense where, a lot of play action, run to set up the pass kind of things. And hopefully Herbert's just hyper efficient and this offense is made for what he does best and kind of unlocks him. And we get less Herbert throwing, but we get still really good numbers. So we'll talk about Justin Herbert here. I have him going for 505 passing attempts, which is not a lot. In a full season, we've seen him throw the ball 456 times last year, 699 the year before, 672 the year before that, and his rookie year was 595. So we've seen Herbert sling it. He's coming down this year. I have him at 505 attempts, about 3,865 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. And then, like I said, I have him running the ball, and honestly, I might need to boost these numbers because I feel a little low here. Like he ran 52 attempts, 228 yards last year and 3 touchdowns. I have him playing, 16 games this year, and I only got him at 60 attempts, 265 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So I might actually let's just boost that right now. Just add 70 yards or 10 carries, get him to 70, and then we'll add, just a little bit of boost on the yardage column there. So we have Herbert running the ball for 295 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. Honestly, I think in a 1 QB league, I'm probably out on Herbert. I love the talent. I absolutely love the talent. I think they're a year or two away from getting excited about him for fantasy again. You have, nice receivers, Ladd McConkey, Josh Palmer. Like those guys are fine, but none of them are like an elite wide receiver 1 yet. We're seeing about Quentin Johnston still. They're trying DJ Chark. You have no tight end really that excites me. Will Dissly, Hayden Hurst, Donald Parham, a couple other guys there, Stone Smart. And the running backs, man, it's a weird list. Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Kimani Vidal, Isaiah Spiller, not really receiving backs. So I think Herbert is still very good this year, very efficient, but he's more of a super flex QB too. I don't think you're going to want to go into your 12-man big money league and say, hey, Herbert's my QB1. I think he's a top 10 QB. I would be shocked if he's a top 10 QB. Maybe they have to abandon the running scheme and just throw the ball a ton and figure that out. But I don't think they have the personnel to throw the ball all around the yard. So with that being said, I do have Justin Herbert as a QB2, ranked QB16. And I'm being a little modest here. If I added, 300 yards and got him to 4,100 yards, he's still going to be QB 16. It's not going to move the needle all that much. So I think he's locked into like a really consistent, QB 2 for super flex leagues. I think he's a guy that you're going to pull off the waiver wire in 1 QB leagues if he has a good matchup, stuff like that. I'm kind of avoiding Herbert in super flex leagues just again because I think the volume is going to be low. I think the touchdowns and some of the rushing numbers will look good, but I don't think he's a massive target for me this year, even though I'm excited to see how this works. I want to see Herbert in like the Brock Purdy, JJ McCarthy role, I guess, if you will. But we'll move on to running back here. Again, we got a weird motley crew of running backs, guys. We're talking Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins. So Greg Roman brings over his workhorses from Baltimore. You have Kimani Vidal, who they added in the draft. Isaiah Spiller still there, and then they brought in Jarrett Patterson. And honestly, I have no idea how this backfield's going to shake out. This is one of the hardest pickles of all running back fields to parse out. This one's one of the most difficult. I think Gus Edwards is the best candidate to lead the team in carries and touches this year. He was a banger last year for the Ravens, and I think he'll continue to do that. But he's not a good pass receiver. And he never really ever got volume in Baltimore. So I don't know if a team's just going to be like, yep, you're getting you 280 carries this year. I don't think that's in his cards. I have him at 185 attempts to lead the team, 765 yards, 6 rushing touchdowns. I have him at 20 receptions, 135 yards receiving, and a touchdown. So I have him involved But I think you don't want to go into your season with him as your RB2. You want him on your bench. Let's see how this Chargers backfield looks, the first week or two before we make decisions about starting him. I think, again, the Chargers really, really, really want to run the football. And I don't know if they have the ability to do so with these backs. They do have a good offensive line, though. They have Herbert. They might be able to, because this play action might be wicked on this team with Herbert not having to be, Mr. Hercules for throwing the ball all the time. But the hardest part of this whole backfield is J.K. Dobbins. I do not trust running backs coming off Achilles. It's never worked out. The only time it's worked out is Deonta Foreman, and he's had some moments, in Carolina and Chicago last year, but he's never been able to. No one's ever given him a starting job. And it looks like the Ravens are giving him, or the Chargers are giving him a chance to do so. Gus Edwards still not practicing in full. J.K. Dobbins has been the first back up in everything. And his ADP, when I did the ADP update today on Wednesday, he was the number one player moving up boards, like a lot, a round and a half up draft boards on Best Ball League. So I have J.K. Dobbins, again, being the RB2 fiddle here. Just he's a tough bet to say he's going to stay healthy all year. He's a tough bet to say, yeah, I think he's going to lead the team in carries, but I'm going to give him a 5% chance to do so. I have him at 125 carries, 535 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns, and a little bit of receiving work. I think he's their best receiving back, and maybe that's honestly his best value early on in the season, where he's not getting a lot of touches and wear and tear, but he's getting the ball in open space and letting him be J.K. Dobbins. Because before he got hurt with the knee injury and the Achilles, he was one of the best up-and-coming running backs in the league, and I think he still has some of that. But, man, it's a tough bet coming off an Achilles tear. The rookie that they drafted, Kamani Vidal, is a complete unknown out of Troy. He has some good underlying metrics when I did the advanced data study on this rookie class, but it doesn't sound like he's impressing in training camp. It just sounds like he's just kind of there. Isaiah Spiller, Jarrett Patterson's actually the RB2 right now behind J.K. Dobbins. So I'm going to probably have to tweak some of these numbers once we get into preseason games and we start getting some data and seeing how this backfield shakes out. But it's an open competition right now at RB3 between Vidal, Spiller, Jarrett Patterson. There might even be one more guy in there that I'm not listing here. So I think the whole RB3 is a mess, and I'm giving them a lot of carries because this team wants to run the ball. So maybe I need to whittle some of those back and give them to Gus Edwards and pump him up. Let's go and see where I have these running backs ranked. I do have Gus Edwards down here at RB38. So again, he's one of those guys that I think is okay on your bench. You don't want him in your RB2 spot to start the year. He could pay off at that spot. I mean, he had 12 or 13 rushing touchdowns last year. He might get that with the Chargers this year. But I don't see a world where they just give him a ton of volume as like a bell cow back. I think they want to spread it around and figure out, what's going on and who's their best players. They have a lot to figure out. So I like Gus Edwards. I'm cautiously ranking him as like a RB3 on your bench. And then I do have J.K. Dobbins down here. Where is Mr. Dobbins? LAC. I have Dobbins at RB42. So I might be too high on Dobbins here. I think he's a guy that you want to put on your bench too in a redraft league, just because you never know. One of these years, someone's going to buck the Achilles trend and we're going to be like, oh my God, it finally happened. Maybe it's J.K. Dobbins. I think he's such a low cost in redraft leagues. You can throw him on the end of your bench, and if he's dust week 1, we can cut him and move on. Low cost opportunity there for what could be, if he's the one that turns the Achilles around, there you have it. But there's no other RB really there that I'm drafting. I like Gus Edwards right now because he's the safe bet. Let's move on to the wide receivers. We're talking Ladd McConkey, Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnston, DJ Chark, Darius Davis, and the great one, Brendan Rice's son, or Jerry Rice's son, Brendan Rice. How does this receiver shake out? It's one of the worst receiving groups in the league, but there's value here. I think Ladd McConkey is an excellent route runner. He showed some really nice advanced metrics at Georgia. I think it was specifically against zone. Like, he gets open, and he's probably going to lead the team in receptions and targets this year. I have him getting a little bit of rushing work too, but I have him at 77 receptions, 110 targets, 905 yards, 6 TDs. That's about 21% target share. I think no one else can separate on this team. Josh Palmer, no. Quentin Johnston, no. DJ Chark, no. Darius Davis is a gadget, deep ball kind of special teams player. Brendan Rice can't really separate either. None of the tight ends can. None of the running backs can. I think Ladd McConkey, I have him projected 110 targets. I think that's too low. I want to move him up. I think if there's any Charger you're drafting this year for redraft leagues, it's Ladd McConkey and then maybe Gus Edwards. Ladd McConkey, being drafted probably as like wide receiver 40 something off the boards right now. I think he could finish as a top 25, top 30 receiver. Herbert likes throwing to Keenan Allen types and just pummeling them with targets in the middle of the field. I think that's Ladd McConkey this year. I do like Josh Palmer as like a bench flex, kind of like a Romeo Dobbs type receiver that's just kind of there. He makes good plays every now and then. I have him at 68 receptions, 100 targets, 830 yards, and 4 TDs. He's a best ball guy that I like. I don't think you're ever going to feel good starting Josh Palmer in your lineups in a redraft league, but for best ball, I think he makes a little bit of sense. And then Quentin Johnston, I know he's not running with the top 3 receivers right now. It's DJ Chark, but they're probably going to rotate those guys in. I've seen a couple nice highlight catches from Quentin Johnston, so it looks like, the flame is still barely lit there. It's flickering. We're not ruling him out yet as a bust, but he did bust pretty hard last year. I have him as the third guy, 40 receptions, 65 targets, 545 yards, and 2 touchdowns. DJ Chark, though, could be involved with this offense. I have him at 25 receptions, 40 targets, 355 yards, and 2 TDs. It's DJ Chark, guys. We've played this game before. He's bounced around, whether it's, Carolina, whether it's Detroit. We've seen him at Jacksonville. We've seen him. He plays, he gets hurt. He plays, he gets hurt, and he never really does much. So I think we're going to see Quentin Johnston end up getting more stats and more volume by the end of the year. But I do take shots on DJ Chark late in best balls. And then don't sleep on Darius Davis. Like if everything goes bad here for Quentin and DJ Chark and Darius Davis is the number 3 guy, in 3 wide receiver sets, like he showed some nice things last year. He's going to get rushing attempts. I think they're going to try doing some jet sweeps and some things to get him the ball in space. So I have him running the ball for 15 attempts, 135 yards and a touchdown. And I also have him getting 30 targets, a couple touchdowns and 255 yards. And then who knows with Brendan Rice? Again, if this receiving core just doesn't work, we might see Darius Davis get pushed up. We might see Brendan Rice get pushed up. This team needs to find some receivers for next year. I don't think this is a playoff team this year, but they're going to try and see who can play by the end of the year. And let's just take a peek here at where I got the wide receivers ranked. Ladd McConkey, wide receiver 35 for me. He's sandwiched right between Stephon Diggs and DeAndre Hopkins, who go way higher in fantasy drafts than Ladd McConkey. So I'm in on McConkey. I do have Joshua Palmer at wide receiver 49. So again, just a nice, bench depth piece for you there. And then Quentin Johnston, DJ Chark, we'll kind of forget about those guys. They'll probably be waiver wire guys if they hit. But we'll finish up with the tight ends here and get out of here. It's a mess. This is another mess position, just like the running backs and the receivers. It's Will Dissly, Hayden Hurst, and Donald Parham. I have no way of projecting who's going to be the tight end 1. Michigan, they used a bunch of guys. They like blocking. They want to run the ball. They want to block. So I think Will Dissly is going to be on the field the most. I have him as the lead tight end at 25 receptions, 255 targets, and 2 touchdowns. Hayden Hurst, he didn't look good last year in Carolina. He's trying it again. I think he got hurt pretty bad last year. I didn't think he was going to play this year, but 20 receptions, 205 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And then Donald Parham, who's just like this big, tall receiving guy, 15 receptions, 155 yards, and 2 touchdowns. They also have Stone Smart there, who I like as a deep sleeper. But there's really nothing here for fantasy. I think, unless they just give one of these tight ends every snap and he's just getting all the receptions and all the stuff, I'm willing to change my mind. But I have Will Dissly here, whatever, tight end 35, Hayden Hurst, tight end 40, full-on tight end by committee here. So nothing really to note for the tight ends. And that's the Chargers in a nutshell, man. It is a weird year, weird depth chart coming for the Chargers. I think if you're drafting Chargers, you want Ladd McConkey or Gus Edwards, maybe Josh Palmer. Justin Herbert's fine in a 2 QB superflex league, but that's really it. You can take shots deep on J.K. Dobbins. You can take a flyer on Quentin Johnston as your last pick. Stuff like that might work, but overall, I think this team's not going to have enough passing volume for me to be interested in Herbert or some of the secondary targets. I kind of want to bet on McConkey to be the leading target guy. I think that's what makes the most sense to me. And then Gus Edwards is the bet to lead the team in all the rushing categories. I think the Chargers are going to be pretty like pesky this year. I think they're going to be in a lot of games. They're going to try and play bully ball. They're going to run the ball. They're going to try to play defense, and they're going to try to, make play action throws and throw when they need to, run to set up the pass. That's kind of the system here. I think they're better than the Broncos. I think they're better than the Raiders. They could finish second in this division. They could get 8, 9, 10 wins this year and maybe sneak into the end of the playoffs. A lot of that depends on how they run the ball, how they protect Herbert, and if any of these receivers can stand up and make anything of note here. So I'm cautiously optimistic on the Chargers. Curious what you guys think in the comments. I want to thank you for hanging out with me. We just completed the AFC West. I'm on to the NFC West. I'm going to finish that up over this weekend. And then we're into August, baby. A lot of mock drafts, live streams. I'm going to start putting out some, more niche content for the fantasy football season, and we'll get into a lot more fun things. But that's it for me. Thank you so much for your time. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.